Let me see your cell phones. Pick them up. Get them out of your pocket. I want to see them. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got one. I see it. I see it. Today we're going to talk about depending on technology too much, when it becomes too much, how it becomes too much, and can it be an addiction? What are the signs of addiction? Would you even know if you were addicted to that cell phone in your hand or the gaming device that you play all the time? So, anxiousness, nervousness, and jittery, all of these are signs of possible addiction. If you don't have your phone within arm's reach at all times, do you have these issues? Have you thought about it? In 2021, J. Flowers Health Institute in Houston reported that these symptoms can impair the ability to think about anything else and to perform your regular daily activities. If you are locked out of Facebook, if you're in Facebook jail, what happens? How often have you seen a friend go to Facebook jail for more than just 24 hours and create a new account because they can't stomach the fact that they won't have access to social media for 30 days? So now you have a friend with two accounts until they get blocked from the second one too. It happens. So today we're going to look at how dependency on technology is a strong addiction, how to discover and combat the addiction, and explain the effects of the addiction. So when I say it's a strong addiction, I'm going to be very frank and I'm going to compare this to an addiction of drugs and alcohol, sex, attention. All of those addictions are nationally known. We address them as medical conditions. We treat them like medical conditions. The signs and symptoms for all of them are pretty much all the same. You have the same withdrawal effects from a sexual addiction as you do from a heroin addiction. Physical pain and discomfort. Okay, so those are the things that I want you to think about. I want you to think about this could possibly be the next pandemic, the next issue that we have that's larger and needs to be thought of more than just putting your kids in a timeout because they're on their iPad too much. So we need to acknowledge that this is just like any other addiction. We need to address it just like it's any other addiction. We're going to learn the symptoms and be aware of what all kinds of technology looks like. So I mentioned your cell phone. That's the one that's most readily available. The gaming devices, I kind of mentioned that and threw that out there. It's mostly kids and young adults who are focusing on that. But what about Alexa in your household? What is controlled in your house by Alexa or Siri or another agent like that? I mean, your stove, your refrigerator can be controlled, your lights, your air conditioning, your carport. All of it is not just the games that we play and social media. So we've kind of talked about the need that we have to identify that it is an addiction, and it's a common addiction just like those that the nation likes to talk about on a more regular basis. So now we're going to review the signs and symptoms. I kind of went over some of the signs and symptoms as the mental part of it, your nervousness, anxiety, anguish, the thought that you're not going to be able to log in for the day could just be too overwhelming for you. But what about the physical part? Just like any other addiction, like I mentioned, you have sweating, trembling. You can have anger outbursts, especially in younger children that are hard to control their anger. They haven't learned that yet. Even insomnia. How often have you found yourself rolling over and looking at your phone in the middle of the night? Yeah, me too. So we need to look at what devices and activities contribute towards this. So of course you have the gaming aspect. It is aimed more towards the kids and the young adults. And it's easier to kind of control because a parent can step in and butt in and put their 2 cents in and enforce some rules there. Then you have your cell phone. That's really easy to notice because everybody has them. They're in their hands most of the time and never further than and out of arm's reach. It's just not going to happen. If you have a cell phone, you've got it nearby you. And that's just way easier to handle in those situations. So we kind of looked at the devices in your household, your phone, your gaming devices and whatnot. And we've looked at some of the signs and symptoms. Let's dive a little bit further into what you can do to combat this situation. As a family and as a household, addiction affects everyone, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or technology addiction. It's going to affect everybody in the household. So what can you do to dive into the overload and stop it before it gets out of control? So I mentioned that children should be an easier fix because they are monitored by their parents. So if you can intercede for them, set some rules, some boundaries, that's the first part to start. Set some time limits for them. Give them a certain amount of screen time. And you decide when they can and can't. And then it's simply about scheduling some unplugging time. Unplug during dinner. Unplug as soon as you get out of work. Unplug right before bed. Just setting aside a certain time to unplug could be beneficial. So one of the last ones, and one of the ones I kind of prefer to do the most, is to keep your screens and devices out of your bedroom. Your bedroom is your sanctuary. It's where you should be able to go and unwind for the day, consider all the things that you've done through the day, and consider all the things that you could have done better. And you can't address your mental health and your day-to-day basis if you have a phone in your hand up until the moment you go to sleep. You just can't do it. So we've talked about addressing that technology is an addiction just like anything else. We've talked about the signs and symptoms and what you can do to combat it. So knowledge is power. You've been equipped with knowledge today. You've just a high-level overview of some things that you could do. While it's fresh on your mind, now is the time to set some boundaries for yourself and your family that will help steer you clear of tech dependency. Take a walk, play a board game, or read a book.